This is a creek that people either walk over or nearby here every single day. You know, one of the scariest things about this is just how many kids hang out at this intersection. We watched tonight as at least 20 kids rode their scooters up and down these sidewalks at the same intersection where a shooting happened just hours ago. I mean, it's a controversial plan to combine courts in our state, and it's receiving a lot of pushback. I'll have more on what's next in the process coming up tonight. We're told this was Allegiant Flight 227 from Asheville, North Carolina. Just a few minutes ago, Allegiant confirming to us that 2 passengers and 2 members of the flight crew were injured. Hey, good morning, Kylie. Can you tell this is my first time at the Strawberry Festival? Am I giving you guys any hints that it's my first time? They're essentially removing just a few handfuls worth of rubble at a time. It's a painstaking process, but they say they have to move this slow to prevent another collapse. It's raising a lot of questions, right? I mean, 2 of those biggest questions tonight are, will he step down? And if he does, what happens next? Well, according to the Constitution for the Republican Party of Florida, if Ziegler steps down, the party's vice chair, Evan Power, would temporarily take over. People in this neighborhood say they'll be hugging their loved ones a little tighter tonight after that shootout left a man shot in plain sight near a busy intersection. It's a murder case made for TV.
Later that night, Santini confessed to his girlfriend that he was hired to kill Cynthia Woods.
That was actually featured on America's Most Wanted several times.
To make sure we don't forget some of the older cases we haven't solved.
This 2005 episode about the 1984 murder of Cynthia Wood at the hands of Donald Santini was provided to ABC Action News by the Hillsborough County State Attorney's Office.
Santini's still out there.
But Santini wouldn't be caught for another 18 years after this episode aired. In June, he was picked up in California after trying to get a passport. Authorities say he'd been living there for decades under an alias. And with just weeks left before he was set to stand trial for Wood's murder, in mid-November, Santini took a plea deal that offered him 50 years in prison with 15 years probation instead of life in prison. You guys just closed a pretty major case. I mean, this. But even though this nearly 40-year-old case is now closed, there are still so many questions left hanging. So we sat down with the Hillsborough County State Attorney and Assistant State Attorney to get some of those answers. And first up was confirming that this was, in fact, a murder for hire.
And he took off the following day after, we believe, getting the second of 2 payments that he received to commit this murder.
But who hired him?
We strongly suspect that her former brother-in-law was involved. And there may have been some individuals who acted as go-betweens.
And why was he hired?
We strongly suspect it had to do with a child custody situation over her 2 small children.
Despite these facts, the state attorney's office says they're not planning to charge anyone else. That's because all those that they think are also connected to this case are dead. But in the end, it's a level of resolution that they hope will bring Wood's family some sense of justice.
We know that one of her children has committed suicide. We know that 2 of her other 2 children have suffered with addiction issues. And one of those 2 is homeless. And they were robbed of their mom.
A slice of heaven.
That is our little chunk of paradise. You know, we're on the river.
Along the Weeki Wachee comes with a price.
Unfortunately, when you're on the water, it's not a matter of if you're going to flood, it's when you're going to flood.
And it's one Bill Stewart and his family were willing to pay as they rode out Hurricane Idalia on Wednesday.
About 7:30, 7:45, the water starts coming up. And we're just sitting there watching it, and the storm surge came in, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Having accepted his fate, Bill says he sat back, cracked a cold one, and waited for the knee-deep flooding to stop. His wife snapping this now viral picture that captured the moment.
It just snowballed from there, and it's gone everywhere.
Amused by the online attention, Bill tells ABC Action News he and his wife eventually left.
We were up on the back deck of my neighbor's house, and we're sitting there, we're having a couple of cold ones and drying out, you know, waiting for the waters to recede, and my wife says, I smell something burning.
That something was their house.
Started right here behind her dresser.
Bill says a surge protector sparked a fire that ruined pretty much everything that floodwaters didn't already damage.
I never recommend having the fire department redecorate for you.
And yet, true to the calm he exuded in that picture, Bill is taking things in stride.
They're material things and they can be replaced, you know. As long as my wife is healthy, as long as my dogs are healthy and I'm healthy, the rest is irrelevant.
He says they'll rebuild and replace. And with any luck, they'll land a sponsorship.
Heineken, call me.
For all the free promo his picture has brought in. And despite that 2-game loss, a lot of people say they feel confident going into tonight's game. Especially one guy we spoke to who says he's got a lot riding on a win coming tonight.
Look, everybody has a few issues the first 2 games. Game 3, they're going to win that. Plus, I got $5,000 on it.
So they better win.
They better win.
I've got to tell y'all, I'm hoping for Earl's sake that the Bolts also win tonight. Coming up at 7 o'clock, I'm going to share some superstitions, things that he did today, along with a few other fans that they wanted to do to give the team just a little bit of extra luck going into the game tonight. Laura Henderson wears many hats, but of all her titles,
I am definitely a super fan.
Bolt's super fan is easily one of her favorites, and it's one she takes pretty seriously.
I got stammer, pull-out, turn-out.
She has a running list of all the players she's ever fist bumped,
This is my lucky puck.
and a room full of signed memorabilia.
He gave me a stick.
Henderson's hockey love affair has also taken her several places, like to the airport.
Let's go, Lightning!
To see the team off. And to the tattoo parlor, where she's gotten not one, but 2 player signatures inked on her shoulder.
Sat in the chair and got it. He literally traced over the Sharpie.
And she's saving room for more.
I want to get this covered, just the Stanley Cup.
Some may call her crazy, and Henderson says she's okay with that. But to truly understand her passion, you have to understand that another title she goes by is Survivor.
The drugs is what led me to being a target for traffickers, actually. And then I got caught up in that life for many, many years until 2018.
Henderson is now 3.5 years sober, and she says the Lightning has been a big part of her recovery.
All the obstacles that have been put in their way, I feel like that's been my life story.
And while Henderson says she expects nothing but success ahead for her and the Bolts,
But now I'm gonna not wear that hat, not gonna wear that shirt.
like any true superfan would, she's also ditching the clothes she wore during Game 1, just in case. Back in August,
Honestly, this was one of my dream cars.
we introduced you to Randall Smith, who at 20 had found his dream car, a 2002 Monte Carlo called Black Steel, but was still looking for a kidney donor. We posted the story online, hoping for the best, but little did we know what would happen next.
I was just scrolling through my phone, looking at some different articles. I saw a picture of this car.
That's Carlos Holguin. He saw our story, but more specifically, he saw Black Steel.
Black, and it was exactly the car that I wanted as I was younger, and I clicked on it just because of the picture of the car, and I started reading a story. And once I read the story, it just tugged on some heartstrings.
It tugged on his heartstrings so much that a few days after the story aired, he went and got tested and found out he was a match for Randall.
I was just overwhelmed. Like, I didn't know really what to say, but thank you. So this is really a turning point. Like, and again, I just want to say thank you because you helped me out a lot.
The two went into surgery on November 15th.
We got a kidney!
And they were both home in time for Thanksgiving.
I mean, words can't say thank you enough for what you did. You gave him a second chance at life.
Carlos says it was a decision he would have regretted not making, even for a perfect stranger.
What if I go throughout my entire life And, you know, I'm an old man, and none of my family members never ate anything. You know, will I feel regret for not having, you know, the courage to help save somebody else?
And it's a gift that gives Randall a new lease on life.
What do we have on the schedule? What's coming up? Because you said you wanted to travel. No more dialysis, right?
Yeah. Germany.
And this wouldn't be a great story that started with a car if it didn't also end with cars. You just heard there Randall saying he wants to travel to Germany. Well, that's because he wants to drive on the world-famous Autobahn highway there. That said, for the time being, he'll likely be stateside celebrating his birthday coming up in January alongside Carlos, who they found out also has the same birthday. In Tampa, Rochelle Alleyne, ABC Action News.